some of the smartest people on the planet work in
Absolutely.
blue collar,
Yep,
right? And
absolutely.
there's this a little bit of a stigma. If you don't go to college, well, you're just not as smart
Yeah.
as me.
Yeah.
I'll say it, right? Like,
Right.
But that's completely false. These are some of the brightest people on the planet.
Yes, and I laugh because and I think I could say this, but I tell them it's not the butt crack industry anymore. It's not. It's not what you think of when you think of a plumber. You know.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Blue Collar Creative Podcast, where we're on a mission to make blue collar aspirational. We're here with Angie Simon, who was former president of SMACNA and is now, what's your title? Executive Director? Or?
Co-founder and executive
Co-founder
director.
and executive director of Heavy Metal Summer Experience, which is a really cool program. We've been excited to be a part of some of the camps and doing the media. And so, Angie, how you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. I'm
welcome.
excited to be here in Cleveland and getting to go to another graduation for the camps. So.
Yeah, we're actually at one of the camps right now, which is a pretty cool fact. So, well, can you tell us a little bit about Heavy Metal Summer Experience? Let's just start there.
Yeah, Heavy Metal Summer Experience is basically we run summer camps in contractor shops or union training centers to teach high schoolers about the trades. And we really focus on the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, piping, and sheet metal trades. And it basically, what we're seeing is kids are not seeing much about trades in their high schools anymore. I mean, shops have been taken out of most high schools, and they're not learning about it, and they're not getting the hands-on experience. So this camp, it gets them into a camp for 30 to 40 hours of the camp's usually that long, and they're actually getting hands-on experience. Kids seem to love fire. We're getting a lot of welding and soldering going on.
We all do.
Their faces are just lighting up.
They're loving the fire, I tell you that. So, but that's what they're learning, and they're making projects, and it's amazing how many of them had no idea what kind of career a job in construction could be.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the cool things, we were at the Michigan camp a few weeks ago with Dee Kramer, and one of the cool things that they shared that's, from my understanding, a core foundation of Heavy Metal Summer Experience is it's promote the trades, but it's not just sheet metal, it's any trade. And so, like, if you come to one of the camps and it's like, hey, there's exposure to some other elements there was some civil stuff, there's some heavy machinery, and it is like, hey, let's promote the trades as a whole. But yeah, we focus on sheet metal, but there's some others.
Right, and we mostly focus, heavy metal mostly focuses on those three, the main plumbing, electrical, and sheet metal. But we're okay. I mean, I love the fact that Matt Kramer was able to go to civil and he uses those big tools. It's hard to fight that because those big tools are fun too to drive the big. And I think he has some virtual tools
they
as
did some
well,
VR stuff
which is
as well.
really
It was pretty
neat.
cool.
But no, I think we want to give the kids choices. I mean, they want to do what they're going to do best. I mean, I think if they like it all, then at that point, maybe the first one they can get the job in is great. But if there's something, I find a lot of kids are like, oh, I want to do sheet metal, or I want to do electrical. I think it might have a lot to do with who's teaching them too. If you get a really good instructor, that instructor is usually the one who's like really, sharing. Our instructors are oftentimes either their current union technicians or they're retirees. And when we get a retiree that comes in, they're so proud of their career in the trades, and they love sharing it with the next generation.
Yeah. We had a few conversations with some of the instructors, and the first year they tried it, they're like, what's this all about? And then they realize, like, oh, this is impactful. This is like one way I can give back. This is fun. And then they start customizing it and getting into it. But how did you develop the format of it all?
Well, one, you're right about that, and I'll explain how that happens, but the employees of the companies that are running it actually benefit so much from it as well. But what happened was, I was the president and CEO of a fairly large mechanical in the Bay Area, and I was also at the time the president of National SMACNA. And it was kind of the pandemic, and I've been going to board meetings virtually everywhere around the world, not the world, but around the United States, and talking to contractors, and everybody kept saying, we're really worried, we have so many people retiring in our trades, what are we going to do about the next generation, there's nobody coming in, etc. And I kept thinking the same thing, and we had people that were retiring, and if you started the trades early, you're retiring at 55. So, that's really young, and it's hard to see him go with all that knowledge and nobody to replace him. So that summer, in the summer of the pandemic, a little bit later part of the summer, I started talking to my partners, and we were right next door to a very underrepresented area in the Bay Area, and I said to my partners, I'd really love to run a summer camp with East Palo Alto and teach those high schoolers about the trades, because we could use more people, and they could use somewhere to go. I don't know that the college is going to be in a lot of those kids' portfolio. So my partner said, well, put a business plan together, which I did, and I presented it to them, and they said, yeah, let's do it. So I was sharing that on a virtual convention that year, and my good friend Rick Hermanson up in Seattle called me up right after the session at the convention, and he said, I want to do it with you. So the two of us got, and that was awesome because our two companies got together virtually now with teams. We're also good at that, and we were having meetings about what are we going to make, what do we need, what permission slips do we need, what marketing, how do we recruit the kids. So we kind of just went through it and fought through it, and we developed what we were going to do, and we threw our first summer camp in the summer of 2021, and it was in my shop at Western Allied in Menlo Park, and also up in Hermanson up in Seattle, and we had 28 kids.
28 kids.
What was that first one like?
Well, I just remember at the end of camp, I was exhausted, but it was a surprise about how, part of the thing that surprised us, that it was an unintended benefit, was how much our companies got behind it, and how, the employees at our companies, particularly the next generation, want to give back. I mean, that's really important to those that are in their 25s to 40s. They want to give back. And this all of a sudden became something that was just an amazing thing for them to be able to see these kids, their eyes lit up. And when they started this, I had a purchasing lady who the first summer, she didn't think she had just started with us, but she had been in the industry. But, I don't think I should volunteer because I don't know enough. So the second summer, the young man running the camp convinced her, you need to volunteer. And she called me up on her way home that night, and she said, Angie, today was the best day of work I've ever had in my life. She said it was so fun to see these kids.
Yeah.
And so I think that unintended benefit, I've gotten calls from many presidents of companies that are running it. They had no idea. Partway through the week, they're like, oh my gosh, my employees love this.
Yeah.
And that kind of happens because you can see it. We had 51 camps this summer. And I think we'll have 51 camps that we start with next summer, and then we'll get the new ones too. So everybody pretty much does it again because it's such a great experience for them.
Yeah, it's interesting to just see that initial reaction, like when somebody jumps on board. You have a lot of camps going now, but like you started out with the one. How did you kind of spread the word? Was that through SMACNA, through SMART, and through the partnerships there?
Yeah, that and my connections also just in the industry, and part of it I had a lot more connections with SMACNA and the MCA because we were a full mechanical contractor. So I started telling about it, but really it was between the contractors I knew and the training centers.
Yeah.
And but I was still I had been asked to serve a second term as national president because of the pandemic. So I was still starting. Now I was starting actually to travel. So when I would go around, I would tell people about it. And actually, what hooked me was a story I'll tell you about what happened at our first camp up at Hermanson. A mom pulled us aside after graduation, and she said, can I talk to you? We said, sure. She says, well, I'm a housekeeper and my husband's a framer. And our daughter was in a really dark place her last semester of senior year. And the mom started crying. She said, my daughter knew she didn't want to go to college, but she didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. And she goes, she got very depressed. She said, I lost my daughter. And she goes, I didn't know what to do about it. She goes, now 6 weeks later after your camp, I get my daughter back. And this young lady now is almost done with her 4th year of her apprenticeship, and she'll be turning out as a journey person in less than a year. And I mean, she's a rock star. And
Wow.
I mean,
That's
that kind of hooked me, and it still gives me chills when I think about it, because if you can save one kid at every camp, it's so worth it, because we're helping them change their life.
Yeah.
And there's this incredible, I don't know if it's not necessarily a disconnect, but you talked about that boardroom conversation, right? Where everybody's saying, hey, we got a lot of people retiring. You scroll on LinkedIn every day and you'll see it, hey, there's a shortage in the skilled trades. And all these conversations are happening, and the words, getting out there that, hey, there's a shortage. And where's the disconnect from going from those conversations in the boardroom to actually implementing something like heavy metal summer experience?
Well, we in construction are busy. Life is busy, and construction's a busy business, right? You're always doing things, you're always busy, and things don't wait. Construction has deadlines and things like that. And so I think the big part was there are 2 steps. I think we went ahead and wrote a playbook after that first camp. And Rick Hermanson, Hermanson Company and Western Allied together and ourselves, we wrote a playbook. We called it the easy button. Can we make it easy for somebody to run a camp? Can we give them the permission slips? Can we give them project samples? Can we give them everything we think they'll need? So then I went around the country and would talk to contractors, because I'm now SMACNA president, and I'm basically started to say, hey, I'm tired of hearing this, guy. It's time for you to get some skin in the game. Here's my playbook. I'll help you run a camp, but you need to take the time to do it. And so I get that everybody's very busy and it does take time, but once they realize and they actually do it, they realize it's so worth it. But sometimes I think it's a little bit of, if we make it as easy as we can for them, and then once they do it, they're hooked.
Yeah.
But I do think that sometimes we want somebody else to solve our problem, and sometimes you need to call people out and say, hey, it's time for you to solve our own problem and be part of the solution anyhow.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, where did, you've accomplished a lot in the industry. You've, made a lot of headway on a lot of things, and, you've had a great career and, obviously retired now, except not really, because
Not really
heavy metal
retired.
summer experience keeps you
Failing.
real busy.
Yeah.
Where did your journey in the trade start?
I was in college, or actually in high school, I'm very into sports. So team and sports were big for me. I was very into that, liked math and science. My dad was an engineer and actually worked at Point Magoo, which was a naval weapons station. So you didn't go to work with your dad as, don't take your daughter to work when he works at a naval weapons station.
Yep.
But I did know that he liked math and stuff, and so I remember thinking, what should I do? I wanted to go play softball in college. So that was my big focus. I wanted to go to college, but I wanted to play softball in college. Yep. So I picked a college at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. It was good in softball, and I could make the team, I thought. And so then I'm like, well, what should I major in? And we had recently been in, this is dating myself, but in the late 70s, we were waiting in line at gas stations, and we had an energy crisis. And they had a major that was called solar and HVAC, that was in environmental engineering. And I thought, solar energy, that's the future, that's really awesome. So I like that, but I also thought to myself, I could be a forest ranger, that would be cool, or I could be a PE teacher. And when I told my dad that, he said, why don't you apply for the engineering, and if it doesn't work out, you can go be a forest ranger or something, because they had natural resource management. So he convinced me to apply to environmental engineering. And honestly, they changed that. They moved that eventually while I was in school to mechanical. So I have a PE license in mechanical, professional engineering license. Yeah. But when I got into that major, the HVAC side, we actually, like junior and senior design in college, most of the time in mechanical engineering, they're designing pistons and valves and things like that, and motors. I was designing HVAC systems, and kind of like the HVAC side of it. I didn't know I would. And I really did not want to work behind a desk. So when I was interviewing, and I came out of college at a good time, which was great. There were a lot of jobs offers. And I wanted to work for somewhere where I could go out and see things and be a project manager type thing and so I looked for a contractor to work for. And never really didn't know much about construction. Literally, my dad built a few things. He built a Heathkit TV, and he built his own pool table, and I helped him a little, but that's about it. I mean, I knew how to use a tape measure, but other than that, but so then I went to work for a contractor, and I loved being a project manager.
I mean, that's an interesting experience, because you see a lot of, nepotism, right, in construction, where it's like, hey, the fourth generation, you just jumped into
I had nothing. Yeah, everybody assumes my dad was the one who got me into construction, and that it was my dad's company. I said, my dad actually, other than being an engineer, but he was not at all in construction. And I think that the other thing, when I got started at Western Allied as a young project manager, the one thing I realized is I know a lot about engineering because I've graduated, but I really knew nothing about construction. So here I am, a project manager, and I realized my foreman, and I say foreman because we really didn't have any women at the time. But my foreman knew so much. They had been doing this for so long, and they were so good at what they did. So I quickly said to my foreman, listen, I'm your project manager, but you're running this project. So I promise you, tell me what you need, and I'll figure a way to get it for you, but you got to promise to teach me what you're doing and teach me about what construction means. And I think that attitude helped a lot. I didn't come in with the cocky, I'm an engineer and you work for me kind of attitude. And so, I mean, my one foreman worked with me on a lot of my projects. He has been our superintendent forever, and he and I are very good friends. But he just said, he goes, you came in with an attitude that I want to work as a team. And I've always been into sports, and team is important. So, and I never planned to be a president of a company. I never planned to own a company. It's just I loved what I was doing, and I kept advancing. And eventually, I was asked to be a partner in the company, and actually said no the first time because I wasn't sure. I just gotten married, and husband was in the hotel business and thought he wanted to be a general manager. And I'm like, if we're gonna have kids, we both can't have big jobs. Yeah. And then we did have a kid, and my husband, we ended up having two, but my husband after the first one said, yeah, why don't you go ahead and be a partner, because I don't want to move. I don't want to go to another location.
Yep.
I want to stay here, so yeah, he'll be a controller and keep it going. So,
Wow.
and then eventually they asked me to be president. So I took over as president in 2008, so
Okay.
right when the recession hit.
Ah,
It's a
perfect.
great way to learn how to run a company.
right into the fire.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Going back to just that thing you said about doing what you love, right? I think you even told a story of that girl who went through that summer experience and how it just changed her life.
Yeah.
How important is it for people to find what they love to do rather than maybe just getting started too, like knowing the opportunities there and just getting started? Because did you know you loved it right out of the gate, or was it?
And did I want to go to work every day? Maybe not every day. I mean, I loved what I did, but there are days that are challenging. And in construction, we always have issues at times. I mean, when you have a bad project or a problem on a job, you want to put your head in the ground if you could, but you can't. But what I tell people, what I always told people at work, my employees when I was president, is you're at work way too much to not love what you're doing. And you shouldn't really be working just to make the money. I mean, it's not going to be good for your health. I mean, I did enjoy what I was doing. Yes, sometimes I worked too many hours, and I haven't, construction can be a busy job. I mean, you can definitely work a lot. But I enjoyed what I did, but it is important. If you don't like what you're doing, you want to get into something you can do. I mean, I have a son who's a journalist. He loves journalism, and he's a great writer. And we teased, he said, he's a great writer, and there's not as many journalists around anymore. And he said, well, I'll never make big money. I said, but you love what you're doing. And he does, which is really important.
Yeah,
Scary.
that's critical. I think too, just to build on that, I think the current narrative, correct me if I'm wrong, right, is, hey, you don't have to go to college and, study and rack up all this debt. You can get right into the trades, start making six figures within 5 years, and
Earn while you learn.
Learn on the job,
Yep.
Have that ability to, but what's that, in your mind, what is that next thing we need to keep, telling kids, building on that story of what the trades are? Because I think we're starting to tell that story, and
Right.
share that out.
Right.
And I think that works for the masses, but it's also like, it's not for everybody, but we're saying there's opportunities here.
But I think it's changed. The trades have changed over the years too. And with technology today and how we use technology in the trades, I think we need to realize that the trades are going to continually to evolve as we rotate. I mean, we always have to be able to have people to build buildings, but the trades are evolving. And so if you like technology, like there was a young woman who attended one of our camps, she says, this was a great experience, but I really want to do robotics. And I said, well, do you realize there's a lot of robotics being used in construction? She goes, no, really? And I go, we need somebody to run those robotics. She goes, really? So I think she just hadn't seen that there was robotics in that 30 or 40 hours of camp. And I just think that the other thing I will say is, I think amongst SMACNA contractors, and it's a round number, but I think between 60 and 65% of the contractors, the owners of the contractors or the presidents of the company started in the field, started in the trades.
Yep.
So what I say to them is, really, opportunities are unleashed for you. You can decide what you want to do. I mean, if you decide you love working with your hands and you want to be in the field and you want to run a crew and you want to be done by 3 o'clock every day and go home, oftentimes, unless you want to work overtime, that's a great way to do it, because you can be a great family person, you can coach your kids. But you can also say, I want to do more than that. I want to own the company. And I love the young man on one of my videos that he says, I loved it. He goes, I love the plumbing. I want to own my own plumbing company. And I'm like, well, then great. Start in the trades, learn the trades.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't actually do the trades. I did take welding in college, and I was terrible at it. But it gave me an appreciation for welding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did understand. I mean, I learned along the way. But I also would get in a meeting, and they'd say to me, okay, well, we need to have you move that main. So how long is it going to take? And I'll say, well, I've never hung a stick of ductwork, so I'll check with my foreman, because I'm not going to commit to how long it's going to take without checking with my foreman.
Yeah.
And I'm the president of the company.
Yeah.
That's the team atmosphere,
The
right?
team thing, yeah. I mean, I could have guessed, and I probably would have guessed right,
Yeah.
but you shouldn't do that, because there are experts in that. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered that question or not.
No,
Okay, good.
it is interesting to hear the narrative that's being pushed right now, and,
Yeah.
and I think it's coming from the construction industry, people who have been in it for a long time. They're saying, hey, this is what's available, this is the opportunity. So we need to keep beating that drum. I'm just, from your perspective, like that family time, that, getting off at 3, those things that you are more nuanced than just get in the trades, make 6 figures. You don't have to, you might have to move around. You might have to, jump states. And, there's some of these nuances to the lifestyle that I'm just curious if you have anything you'd add to that.
I do think that we need to realize is that every job title that you're going to have within construction can vary. And if you really want, if that's what you want, if you want that family time and you want to be off, that working in the field in the trades is probably a great option, because you are going to have it's going to be an 8-hour day.
Yeah.
And whereas when you get to the office and you want to be in the office and estimate and project management, it's probably not going to be an 8-hour day. It's interesting. My younger son worked at Western Allied after college for 4 or 5 years. And at one point he said to me, "Why did you send me to Cal Poly if you're so into the trades?" And he goes, "I could have done what I'm doing now and done it with the trades." And I said, "You're right, hon, but," I go, "you would have missed out." I go, "You had fun and we were able," he had gotten scholarships and we were able to afford college. He has no debt. And he goes, "I know, that's true." He goes, "That's true." I go, "But you could go in the trades now if you want." He goes, "I'm good." So he was running operations, helping on the operations side.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But now he's actually working for a computer technology company who is providing technology in construction.
Oh, well, there you
That's
go.
awesome.
And so, I mean,
That's awesome.
I think the whole technology thing can allow kids that are in the trades to do so much more than they're going to. And I can't even picture where we're going to be 5 years from now. It's hard for me to envision it because things are changing so quickly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one article which we've actually talked about on the podcast, but I believe is a Forbes article where it's talking about the future of construction and how technology is going to change what the day-to-day life is for the worker. And one of the things that it said, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it'll be somewhat summarized, is it's the future of technology isn't going to change like construction workers. It's going to change what it means to be a construction worker. So maybe you're operating technology, maybe you're working with robotics more often, but it's not going away. It's just changing what it looks like to be a construction worker.
And I think in my life, I was a woman in the trades and working for a company for, 35 years for one company, and a bit of a unicorn, particularly as the president and CEO of a $125 million company when I left. And so a bit of a unicorn, but my goal would be to see the demographics of construction change. And that's what our camps, I do stress really hard. I said, let's see if we can change those demographics. We are overall a majority white male industry, and it's changing. But with technology nowadays, there's no reason a woman can't do pretty much anything she wants to out in the field. And so same with any person can do what they want to. I mean, we had this. I remember having a hike one day after with another guy. He went to college with me, and he's a contractor. And we're hiking, and he's asking me, "Well, I don't believe that. I don't believe a woman could lift that piece of ductwork when we need to." And we had this conversation, and I said, "So what would happen when you have that 105-pound guy, that wimpy guy that's in the trades?" "Well, we would give him the job to just line the ductwork, and that would be what he'd be doing." I said, "Well, you could do the same thing with the woman, but with the right tools, anybody can do everything." And the technology and the tools nowadays, they give you, they have things that will lift things if you need it. You shouldn't be lifting anything more than 50 pounds or something. So it's a perception thing, and I think we need to continue to change that perception. And you guys helping with Blue Collar Creative by changing the perception of the fact that it's a great industry.
It is.
And you built something, and you can say, "I built that." My kids are tired of hearing me drive my 30-year-old and my 27-year-old are tired of they're always going to be my kids, are tired of driving around and seeing me say, "Oh, I worked on that project. I worked on that project."
But that's the beauty of it. There's so much pride in what you get to accomplish through that.
Yep, very much.
All right, just a quick break to shout out our sponsor for this podcast and for the future podcast coming up. It's Hard Hat Coffee Co. You can check them out at hardhatcoffee.co. And if you want 10% off, you can use discount code BCC, all caps.
All caps. We're on a mission to make blue collar aspirational again. And I think that's why we decided to partner up with Cole, why he wanted to get involved with what we're doing. Because with every bag sold, part of that goes to helping the next generation get into the trades, get equipped with the right tools, knowledge. So we're really thrilled that Cole decided to partner up on this, and we're on the same mission. I said in my last LinkedIn post, we're sellouts, but we're sellouts for the right reason, because we align on mission. And when mission is the mission is there, it's like, why wouldn't we be drinking this, to support the workforce development, and why wouldn't every GC have this stocked in their office? That's my challenge. If we're trying to affect the future of this industry, it's like, coffee's one of those ways we can do it. It's not like there's a whole lot of different ways we're trying to do it, and this is just one of those things that helps move the needle.
And why not drink better coffee and support something that you believe in? So hardhatcoffee.co. Don't forget to use discount code BCC when you check out for 10% off. Back to the podcast.
Man, you're good at that. Yeah, you're good at that.
Speaking just to the the diversity in the industry and things like that, the Beef for All initiative. You're going to be doing a town hall on it later today. Could you just explain what that is and why it's important?
Well, I was national president when all this was going down, and during the pandemic, there was a number of jobs that had nooses on the job sites, and that made, I think, the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post or something. There was articles about that, how the construction industry needed to upgrade their perception and things and make sure they take care of people and make it more inclusive. And to Smart's and SMACNA's credit, but they stepped up very strongly. And so I was national president at the time, so we together started this initiative called it's Beef for All, Belonging and Excellence for All. And it's basically, I know we don't say DE&I as much anymore, but we're working on trying to make our trades more diverse. And not worse, not weakened. We're not forcing anybody to take anybody, but just to understand that many people can do this job. And on top of that, we have an issue with having not enough people. And if we don't have enough people and we have an untapped resource of, for example, in the trades, we had maybe 5% women, 4 or 5% women in the trades not less than 5 years ago. And if you only have 5% women, well, that's an untapped resource. There are 51% women in the nation. So if we're looking for more people, and then we need to look at all avenues of it. So Beef for All is working really hard to try to slowly change the perception of what and make a more inclusive job site and a workplace. And they work really hard. They have a good initiative. I've Got Your Back initiative, where if you got a problem, you say something about it and somebody has your back. And so we're sharing that story around the nation right now. And it's been an initiative for about 3 years, and it's starting to get some legs, and it's doing a great job. I think we're starting to work team with nonprofits in different locations to actually bring in, like, for example, we're going to be in Atlanta, and in Atlanta there is a Price is a air distribution producer. And they have a factory outside of Atlanta, and they were struggling to find enough people to work in the factory. And it's a sheet metal it would be sheet metal production workers. So they teamed with a nonprofit. There's a large Vietnamese population in the Atlanta area, and they teamed with a nonprofit that's a Vietnamese nonprofit. And sure enough, after doing that, and this was a few years back, they're like 75% now of their workers are Vietnamese.
Wow.
So I think, again, we just have to give people opportunities and tell them that there's great opportunities for that.
Yeah. How much of that is just good culture, for everyone?
Just being a good person.
To some degree, you just wonder, like, the initiatives you're talking about would just work better for everyone, honestly. Like, doesn't everybody want somebody to have their back and be able to go and say, hey, I have a problem here, and this stigma that's in the construction industry, and it's been a part of that for a long time. It's like, how do you, why not just change? You're changing the overall culture for everyone.
Yeah. And
doing that is allowing for more diversity.
And that's exactly International President Mike Coleman for SMART. That's one of the things. We're in a meeting at one point. He said, you just have to be a good person. It's simple as that. Be a good person.
Yeah.
And I said, you're right. And I said, the problem is sometimes we have to remind people of being that. A little bit, the other thing is there's the acceptance and willingness to accept a little bit different. Particularly us baby boomers that now are retiring, which I think when our baby boomers do finally retire out of the industry, we will get more acceptance. Because I've always said the next generation, the millennials, for example, are way more inclusive. And they don't really look at color or race or anything. They're just more inclusive if people do the job. So I do think that will help. I'm a baby boomer, but there are some of us that are more accepting than others. But and I'm not blaming our baby boomers, but what I'm saying is it's just we were brought up at a different time.
It takes respect I think, from generation to generation, to look at what the baby boomers have built and respect the hard work that's been put in, and then carry on that legacy. And not throw the baby out with the bathwater at all.
Yes.
It's like, I think, we just finished a piece. We're in obviously the content world and telling these stories. And there's a piece we just finished for the NMAPC that just talked to, or ZISA.
Yeah.
The Zero Injury Safety Award video, where it just talked about that legacy. and that they wouldn't want, if we were to talk to our dads today, about like, hey, how were the trades, and was that the best way to do it?
Yep.
They'd say no, it wasn't. Would they have done it any differently? Maybe if they had the knowledge and the resources and the tools and all of that. But it's now our job to take that and figure out how to build on it.
Yeah, and it's a generational thing to a certain degree. I know that my dad was the first to go to college in his family. And so when we were growing up as kids, my brothers and sister, my two brothers, my sister and I, we were kind of expected to go to college. We're going to go to college. We're going to go to college. And we wanted to. And my dad's 92 now, and I was at his house the other day talking to him, and he was saying something about he wants to give something to his future grandkids or his future great-grandkids. He's going to give them an educational fund. And I looked at him and I said, but what happens if they want to be a tradesperson? What happens if they want a career in the trades and they don't want to go to college because they really love what they're doing with their hands? I go, do you not want to support them? He goes, oh, well, that's a good point. He goes, not everybody does need to go to college. And I said, remember, Dad, I'm running a nonprofit that not everybody goes to college. And he goes, you're so right. He goes, that's right. I need to reword this how I'm doing this, because he said, and I actually tell the story about. So I'd gone to college. It took 5 years to get out of Cal Poly with playing softball and everything. So had fun.
You had fun.
Had fun. Had a good time.
Had a few homers.
And then I went to a small contractor for a year, and then went to Western Allied. So 5, 6, 7, probably the 8th year, but I'd been out of high school for 8 years. And one of my foremen I was working with, he bought his first house in the Bay Area. He was the same age as me. He had been out of high school 8 years, and he was buying his first house.
Wow.
And I was paying off my folks, and there was no way in heck I was going to be able to buy a house for a long time. So it's just one of those things where I think it's a great career, and it provides a solution for people. And so many of my trades folks that I worked with way back then, they've retired. They've sold their house in California. They moved to a lake in Alabama or wherever, and they own like mansion there now, and they have money for their retirement. So
Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's kind of that conversation with your dad. It's like, I need to rethink how I word this.
Yes.
And I think there's a perspective that was built up over generations of, hey, we need to go to college after high school because that's the way to a better future. And that was true at a time.
Yes.
At a time there was a path where like, hey, that made the most sense. And I think it's kind of, not for everyone, but in a lot of cases, kind of shifted, where it's like that may not be the best path anymore. There's a lot of other opportunities, whether it's in the trades or in other avenues. But I think it is about, everyone just needs to rethink that default perspective of like, hey, this is what we're supposed to do after high school.
Yeah, and like redefine the term blue collar. That's
Yes.
part of what we're trying to talk about, because it is creative. It's also some of the smartest people on the planet work in
Absolutely.
blue collar,
Yep,
right? And
absolutely.
And there's a little bit of a stigma if you don't go to college. Well, you're just not as smart
Yeah.
as me.
Yeah.
I'll say it, right?
Right.
But that's completely false, And so and you see it when you get out to places like this, when you walk into these shops, and these are some of the brightest people on the planet.
Yes, and I laugh because and I think I could say this, but I tell them it's not the butt crack industry anymore. It's not. It's not what you think of when you think of a plumber.
I love that.
But I think we can say that. But
We can say that.
Yeah. Okay.
On this podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Maybe not CNN.
Okay, but I think people need to realize is that it's changed. It's a perception that's changed, and I don't know. I do think I think we're making some traction. I never intended heavy metal to grow like heavy metal's grown.
Yeah.
I mean, I ran it in my own shop to work with East Palo Alto. I shared the story. We wrote the playbook, and then we thought, we should incorporate and become, a nonprofit. So we give boots. We raise money. Heavy metal raises money to give every kid that starts the camp a set of boots. And so right now we work with Red Wing. I mean, that makes you feel like you are in construction right off the bat.
Yeah.
And you need to have them as well. But and there was a few areas like in my I found out a lot of kids at that age don't wear jeans, so they had sweats, and you got to go buy jeans. Sorry, you can't wear sweats.
No sweats.
Or shorts, either one.
Yep.
But I think we give them that. We also work with our great sponsors like DeWalt in Milwaukee, and they walk away with a bag of tools when they graduate, and we also provide all the resources and the like. But again, it's one of those. I mean, heavy metal is just. I had no idea it was going to take off like this, and as it's grown, it's continued to take off, and it's amazing to see. I think I've really hit a nerve.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it really is time for us to accept this. And somebody asked me, well, how long are you going to run heavy metal? I said, well, ideally we get we get shops back in high schools, and high schools start teaching this, and I won't have to do it. But I think that's probably a long way away in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I got two boys, and
Okay.
it's like, I want these experiences for them when they get older too.
Yeah.
To exist, to be a part of this, and we've gotten the chance to see some of those shop classes coming back into high schools in Detroit and Michigan area, but there's still a whole lot of absence, there.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think I had a girlfriend who we played softball together once we got out of college, and she was a teacher, but she's math teacher, but she also taught shop, and in middle school in the Bay Area in Burlingame, which is and she loved teaching woodshop. That was one of her favorite classes, and then eventually the woodshop went away. And but she said, I think and arts. I mean, honestly, our high schools haven't been great either to take music and arts away too. It's finances and money, I guess. Shops are not easy to fund, and they need extra funding, and then they get worried safety. But I mean, we just all need to do the right thing and make it happen. So. I don't know. I get questions a lot about things even with our camps. Are you sure? I don't know if I want to host a camp because it's not too safe. And I remember the first camp we hosted. We didn't plan to do welding, but the kids were so interested. They loved the soldering and they wanted to do welding. So we ended up doing. We had a day, but we didn't have camp, and our sheet metal superintendent said, "Listen, any kids that wants to do welding, come over here today." And out of the 16 kids we had, 11 or 12 showed up, and so we didn't even have enough gloves. We had to take turns. So from there on out, we put welding into it.
Yeah.
So.
And those toolbox safety talks at the beginning of the week, it's like, hey, we're around sharp metal, just being aware, being conscious of all of these things can really prevent a lot of that.
Well, and we do include that in our playbook. We try to tell them, treat it just like you're on the construction site. You do your job hazardous analysis, your JHA. You talk about what you're doing every day. I mean, safety is number one everywhere. It always was on our job sites. And I know as somebody running a company, we had one of our subs, an insulator, fell from a multi-story building. He was insulating our main, and he died. And I went to his funeral, and I came back and I talked to my guys at the safety meeting and said, I never want to ever go to one of your funerals. I mean, it's not a safe industry. I should say it has its dangers. It's very, very safe, but it can be dangerous. But if you don't do things right, and he did not tie off, and so it was just a mistake.
Yeah.
But a mistake can take your life. But again, you know what you're doing and you work on it. And we didn't have any issues while I was there for 35 years. So that was nice.
Why do you think Heavy Metal Summer Experience, like you said, it hit a nerve and it took off like crazy? What nerve do you think you hit? Like, what cultural thing is there that, like, hey, there's a vacuum for this, or why did it take off like that?
Well, I do think, I've also got a lot of great corporate sponsors who also have realized that they want to help support the trades, Train and Procore and Stratus, and there's just a lot of them that said, I want to help support the trades too, because they all see the future of it. But I think for twofold, when the company hosts it, they realize it's good for their company as well and good for their employees. That helps, and then they get the word around. But when you see those parents, sometimes our issue is our parents, the parents of the kids. They think they have to go to college. But when you see the parents and they've learned, they comment, and we have a parent survey at the end of camps. And the testimonials we get from those parent surveys just tickle me, because they're like, my kid came home and he'd never tell me about school, but he came home every day and told me everything that happened today.
Yeah.
Or she came home and she wanted to share with what she was doing. And they felt like the interaction was so great. And the parents then start realizing, wow, this is a really good opportunity. Yeah. And I was tickled by one parent. We actually had met her in Milwaukee and met them. It's kind of an arbitrary thing, but my husband had met her and her older son when we were in Louisville. A long story there, but older son was very into college and went to college. But when we had breakfast with her a couple of years back, it was only my second year of doing heavy metal. I told her about the program, and she said, well, her younger son, Logan, was going to be. She goes, he doesn't want to go to college. He loves the lawn mowing. And I said, well, we don't have one here in Milwaukee yet, but I said maybe when we do. Well, a couple years later, this past summer, we have one in Milwaukee. So I made sure she knew about it. And Logan came to the class and and he loved it. And he was great, and he is so excited about getting into the trades. And
awesome.
I mean, she was awesome because she sent us a check and supported us as a nonprofit as well, which touched me because, we're helping her, but they're helping us as well. And she's actually helping the next camps and the next kids that we can help. So.
Yeah, so it not just touches the kids, but it touches the employees of the companies, it touches the parents, it reaches everybody, and it gets the word out there. And that's where we want to just point our camera towards those types of events.
Yeah, things that have an impact.
And one other really neat story is, I think it was our second year of camps, and we had one in Pomona, and at a contractor shop. And I think it was the superintendents of schools in that school district, like the Laverne School District maybe. Her daughter was at the camp. And she came home and told the mom how much she loved it. So that superintendent said to one of the counselors, we need to get more kids into this camp. So the next summer, the counselor called me and said, tell me more about this camp. So I had a long conversation with her, and I said, honestly, sometimes you counselors are my problem because your job is to counsel kids to get them into college. And I said, why don't you guys also just counsel the kids to get them into a career? It doesn't have to be going to college. And so we talked, and she called me numerous times. And fast forward, the superintendent of schools gave her a new job title, and she is now in charge of counseling for non-college track kids.
Wow,
and she set up something called SoCal Trades. It's a nonprofit that goes around and takes all the unions in different areas, and they go into all the high schools, and they do like job fairs and stuff like that. So she really leaned into it, and that's what we need, is the high schools to lean into it a little more too and be supportive.
What did you say that really resonated with her to the point where now?
Well, she admits that it's frustrating sometimes trying to counsel kids who probably are not meant to go to college. She goes, I can get them into college because most colleges, you can find a college that will take somebody. But she said, but they're not going to do well. They're not going to survive in that atmosphere. And she goes, so a lot of these kids are out of college in a year or two, and they don't make it. And they spend money. And so I think that's what resonated with her, was she cared about the kids, and she started realizing that it wasn't an opportunity for every kid, and that we need to figure out another way to give them an opportunity.
Yeah, I think if you're a high school counselor and you're, like you said, it's that career counseling, not just like, hey, let's get them into college. If college is the only tool in your toolbox, you can't do the job. Like you're missing important tools, because a career is about more than just college. And like you said, not every kid is suited for that. And as a counselor who cares about the kids, and sees like, hey, you sit with them and this just isn't the right fit, then it's like, if you don't have the tools in your toolbox to do that job, to get them where they need to be, then you're limiting yourself.
And I think there's a lot of careers, like for example, in high schools, there's a lot of what they call coding classes. Kids code in high school. So I have no clue what that is, but they do coding. And a lot of them say, I don't need to go to college. I'm going to go work for a company to do coding. But I will tell you that I think the construction trades are much more secure going forward. We use AI in the construction trades, but we still have to have people to build the buildings. And whereas I think AI is going to take over things like coding, eventually it's going to learn that type of thing, and we're not going to have as many of those type of jobs. And so that's why I encourage them. I say, do you realize what opportunities we have in the next 5 to 10 years with all the people retiring? So I think the numbers I've always heard is there's somewhere around 400,000 open jobs in construction now that we are looking for people. And they say 40% of our industry is going to retire in the next 5 to 7 years. So if we're already short 400,000 jobs and 40% is going to retire here in the next 5 to 7 years, what an opportunity we have for a great career. Yeah. And I think AI is going to make it only better for us and more efficient for us to do things. And we have to make it more efficient to do things with less people because we don't have as many people as we need. So I just think everybody should think about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You can't clone yourself, right? And so you've had to collaborate, lean on other people, work as a team, which has always been part of your repertoire, right?
Yep.
And I guess if you were to challenge other associations and other, partners in this industry, HSME is a great opportunity for them to get involved, to be a part of that. Are there any other, challenges that you put out there because I think you challenge the status quo. You're pushing the boundaries. You're actually doing it.
And I've actually talked to a lot of, whether it's AGC or there's a contractor in the Bay Area, Granite Rock, a big contractor, right? And I actually had a guy the very second year we were doing camp came over and he said, well, can we do an HMSC camp? I said, well, we're really focused on mechanical, electrical, plumbing. But I said, there's no reason you can't run a camp. I'll share some of my resources with you, and he goes, well, what would I do? And I said, well, okay, you do underground and you do concrete. I said, I got a suggestion. I mean, you're in East Redwood City, in East Menlo Park, or East Palo Alto, East Menlo Park, East Palo Alto, go find an underserved area, a driveway that looks terrible, knock on their front door, say, can we do a project this week for you with our kids, and we can tear your driveway apart, the kids can do the demo, they can frame it, they can learn how to order the concrete, the amount of concrete they need, they can pour the concrete, and they can give a whole new driveway. What a great project for a week, right?
Yeah.
And you also serve a house that might need that. And he's like, wow, I could do that. I don't know if he ever did going forward, but I challenge him, everybody, it's not that hard. We just have to be willing to put the time in. And I was just talking to Eric here in Cleveland, and he ran the camp last summer in Toledo that was here. And he said, yeah, year 2 is a lot easier. It's the first year is the hardest because there's a little bit of extra work and you got to get the routine. But year 2 is a lot easier. And Matt Kramer, I think when you guys visited there, I think that was maybe their 4th camp. And their first year they ran 2, and then they ran 3, and then they've consolidated and they're back down to 1. But they've got it down pat now.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard they had a little disruption, and they still got it. They figured
did,
it out.
Yeah. A big disruption.
Major hiccup, and it
Major.
still ran smooth. We were there every day, and it ran smooth.
Nobody would have known. Yeah.
That's amazing.
They kept it going.
So.
No,
That's awesome.
I think, I mean, obviously, heavy metal summer experiences, you're looking to equip the next generation and, get exposure to the next generation. But you yourself, when you were coming out, there were some attributes of yourself as far as like teamwork and trying to learn instead of like, hey, I know what I'm doing here. It's like, there are other people that know more than me. How can I learn from them? And then just taking on and taking the initiative on things. What would you say to the next generation, someone who's looking to get into this industry? What words of advice would you give them to how to be successful?
Well, I know for me, people say, how did you make it? How did you become a CEO of a company like that? And I said, honestly, I never felt like I didn't belong at my company. Western Alloy would always, I guess I never realized I was a woman, right? I mean, I didn't feel different with my field folks, and I treated me just like they treat anybody else. So it was a very inclusive place to work, and my team was very inclusive with me. Now, did I experience things on the job site at times? Yes, I can tell you a number of stories with superintendents or inspectors or things like that. But I also put my head down and just did my job, and I enjoyed doing my job. So, bit of advice would be that you can't take a job in construction and think you're going to skate and work 6 hours a week. I mean, 6 hours a day or 4 hours a day and be able to get home early all the time. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to work. But you also can make very good money in construction. It's a very good place to make some good money. But you have to be willing to work a little bit. So be willing to get up early in the morning, be willing to get to work, and you're going to have a great career. I also think as a woman or in the trades, it's becoming much more welcoming. And I really feel like I think I would love to challenge women to say, go out and do what you think you want to do. Go show them that you can do the job. I mean, I always felt like I'm just going to show you that I can do the job if you're going to say I can't. So when that superintendent early in my career threw me out of a trailer because I was a girl and I don't do girls in my trailer, was what he said to me. He said, my foreman was so mad, but I stepped out and said, listen, you can't start this job on the wrong foot. You go in there and take notes, but I'm going to show this guy by the end of the job that I'm going to be a good project manager. And I did. I was not going to change that guy. He was 70. In my mind, he was 80 years old. I don't think he was.
You weren't going to let it change who you were.
I wasn't going to let it change. No, but I wasn't going to also change him in that moment when it was 15 guys in the trailer. I'm not going to show him up in front of them at that time. And I'm 23 years old, and he's not 80, but he was probably 65, like I am almost. And
should have retired.
But yeah, it was one of those things where I felt like he should have retired. Yeah. So, but it's a great industry. You get to see what you built. You can be proud of it, and there's a lot of opportunity. So, I think we just need to change that perception.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. We've been going for just about an hour now. So last question from my end is, what's next for Heavy Metal Summer Experience? Like, what's in the future for that?
That's a really good question. I mean, to be honest, it's a little overwhelming in that I just didn't expect it to grow quite so fast. But I would like to hire a real executive director instead of me playing that role. I continue to be around.
Everybody's watching.
Yeah. Well, but
Yeah.
part of that is got to figure out how to fundraise and continue to get support. Got amazing support from a lot of our industry. Need to get the word out there some more to do that. We rely on finding hosts, and so we've had amazing union training centers and union contractors that we found that want to host it. So I do look around, and there are areas I'd like to focus on, states that we don't have either any any camps in, or states that where I think, like, for example, Texas is a very big state, and we've had one camp now, and that's it, in San Antonio. So we'd like to get more in Texas. We don't have anything in Florida. The South is pretty bare. We had one in Nashville and a couple in Alabama, but we don't have a lot there. So there's just different areas I'd like to get into some more.
Yeah.
And so I would love to get something in D.C., just because that's an area that I feel has a good population that really could use this.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of construction in D.C. always. I mean, the government always is building something, or remodeling something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know what's next for heavy metal. I do think we've created, kind of iconic, say we created a monster, but it's rolling, and we're not stopping it now. And I don't like to say no to anything. Obviously, I can't. So I don't want to say no to anything. So we're going to continue to try to grow. I'm just going to work on getting sponsorship and getting a few more people to help with that.
Well, you've gained a whole lot of traction. Like I know you said, I think you have, and it's incredible to see just what was going on in Michigan and across now the country. So I think if people are looking to get in touch with you and looking to get involved in this, what's the best way to do that?
Actually, our website, which is it's hmse.org. So it's basically Heavy Metal Summer Experience. You could put that in as well and find it, but hmse.org. And I'm the info at is HMSC's me, and then plus my own emails on there as well. But we would love it if you're interested. I mean, I know, like, Detroit, for example, is a city that I want to focus on right now too.
Well, I know when we interviewed Matt Kramer for part of the video, and one of the clips that didn't make the video is he actually said, and this is a direct quote, he said, "I'm throwing down the gauntlet for Michigan of like, we're the only one who hosts a camp here, and it's been an amazing experience." He actually said that over the last couple of camps, he said they've probably been doing it for about 4 years.
Yeah.
He said they've taken 5 or 6 apprentices from the camps as they've aged up into the role, and he said it's been great. Their team learns a ton from it. They love doing it, but he was just like, it's so valuable. Like, we want other people to do it, and not because, hey, we're overworked, we don't want to do it, but because like it's worth it.
And we need to cover more areas. Detroit's an area that I'd love to get into, and I'm focusing on that. And actually, we're doing grant writing in those areas, and we're trying to raise some additional funds to help us run camps in those areas. But I also think in like Michigan, where Ford and GM, they need tradespeople, and we need to work with them to also support that. I mean, I've been impressed with the support we've gotten from MCA and UA and SMACNA and SMART. So now we just need to continue to get that kind of support, even from bigger companies where anybody that does manufacturing, they need manufacturing people. And even if it's not exactly manufacturing, if somebody goes to our camp and they learn how to use tools, that works really well with manufacturing. So,
sure.
So we'll tell them about those opportunities.
It's a big hub there. So
Yes. Yeah, we're going to get it. We're going to keep on growing. Yeah, I'd like to be in every state of the nation if we could, but somebody wants me to be in Hawaii, and I said, I'll work on that too. I can do that one.
That's not too big of an
I'm okay with going to Hawaii.
That sounds like a good time.
I'll go to that graduation.
What about Alaska? Are we doing Alaska too?
Oh, Alaska would be good. I don't know how much. Actually, I did have a call once from somebody in Alaska. We talked about it, but they haven't really gotten off the hooks yet. So.
Okay.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, and again, like you said, people can find you at hmse.org and reach out and
involved.
Just thanks for having a conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Angie. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys coming by, and we'll be posting some of the films that you guys are doing for us on our website as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they go to our website, go to the videos tab and look at all the different videos, because it's obvious when you watch them how excited the kids are and how people are really having a good time. And you can go to the donate tab as well if you'd like, and consider donating if you'd like, because I would love that too.
Donate.
Yeah.
That one. So get involved. This is an awesome thing you're doing, and we're just excited to be able to spotlight it a little more.
Thank you. Well, and also if you're interested and you're not sure you can get involved, but look next summer, actually by January, February, look on our website again, and by then we'll have posted our new locations, because we have a map on our website that shows all the locations. And usually about January, we update that with
You
all
start
of
registering essentially?
we start registering
you at least
hosts in September,
Okay.
October,
Yep.
and we try to get all of our hosts lined out by the end of the year. And then we usually start opening the registration for kids right after the first of the year.
Okay.
Some of them maybe before that, but a lot of them
So
right.
January 2026, you can go on and.
And if you're a student, you want to do it, go on and look and see where they're at. So,
Fantastic.
and then if you don't know, then I'll get the email, and then you send me an email, and I'll answer it.
Yeah, we'll
So,
figure it out.
yeah.
Fun week. I mean, it was awesome for us to be a part of one ourselves
yeah.
and highlight it. And there's a lot of really cool things happening there. You get hands-on with the tools, mentorship that's right there, ready, happy, and excited to have you. So it's an awesome culture you set up of support.
And they're working on getting those kids into the trades, and that's the
Yeah.
thing that's really neat, is that we are getting, of the kids that have graduated, and actually I'm excited to see Eric say how many of this group has graduated already. So if they need people, then come, then they're going to hire them. And the contractors are going to be here tomorrow, so hopefully we can get some of those contractors here to hire the kids that are graduating from Cleveland's camp.
Yeah, and you start them off on the right foot. It's like, here's a pair of boots, here's some tools.
Yep.
Like, let's get you feeling like you belong in this industry.
Yeah.
Like, you can do this work, not like, oh, well, you're on the outskirts, you don't quite have what you need, but,
Yeah.
I think that's it's a big part of putting people in the right mindset to feel like, hey, I'm a part of this.
Yes.
I belong here.
You want them to have ownership of that, and you want them to feel like they're a tradesperson. And
Yeah.
to me, the boots are important.
Yeah.
They protect your feet, and they make you feel like a tradesperson. So.
Yeah, 100%. Well,
love
thanks a lot, Angie. We really appreciate it, and thanks for the work you're doing for the industry too. It
thank
really
you.
matters. Like we love seeing it. That's why we wanted to get involved in highlighting it. And yeah, it's just thanks for what you're doing for the industry. It makes a big impact.
Well, thank you, and I am glad that we have so many good partners that we are working with, and because we couldn't do it by ourselves. And I do think my vision was never quite this broad, but I'm excited where it's going. So I would love to continue to be involved in that and bring it forward and get more camps. I'm very proud of it. So
Cool. Keep it going.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks
you
a
guys.
lot, Angie.